I'd like to welcome everybody today on behalf of the City Council. We're pleased to be here for an event that we're probably reenacting that was done first in Ames 123 years ago. And so we are now looking forward to digging ground for something that will probably serve us for hopefully another 123 years. As we look at what this day symbolizes and what the importance of the water utility in Ames is, I think there are probably two things that come to mind. One is the importance of what tastes like good water, but equally or perhaps more important, one that keeps in mind health and safety for those who are drinking it. And on those scores, anecdotally, I'd like to say something about the importance of taste and what that has meant to those of us who take taste for granted in Ames. Last weekend, I was with somebody who teaches prospective Iowa State University students or prospective restaurateurs who are Iowa State University students, and he had a class on water. It included blind tasting, and so he had a variety of glasses of water, some which come from bottles, some which come from taps, some which bubble, some which don't. And out of that, I'm pleased I've not yet told John that the winner of it was Ames City Water. So both for locally and nationally, we of course have been recognized over the years for the taste of city water, but probably more importantly, for those of us who take for granted drinking water in Ames, the issue of health and safety becomes a very important one. And Ames historically has led the way in its water utility for being ahead of the game in filtration and in treatment of water. I happen to be old enough that I recall the battle that dentists went through a number of decades ago when fluoride was being discussed. And both those dentists and a number of editorial writers had to convince a suspecting public that fluoride was really not a communist plot. So probably all of our children have many fewer cavities than we do as a result of water treatment. So in welcoming you here, and both for the taste and the health and safety of water, we thank for what has been done to bringing us to this point, and particularly those who have worked hard in the water treatment plant. Please tell us who you are and recognize yourself for the workers in the water treatment plant. Don't be modest. Who are you? And thank you. And with that, I'd like to turn it over now to the director of the Ames Water Utility, John Dunn, to tell us what we can anticipate for the next 123 years. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Today marks the start of a new phase of the project, but this is certainly not the start of the project. It actually began in the spring of 2007 when the project appeared in the city's capital improvements plan for the first time. And since that time, there have been so many people who've been instrumental in bringing it forward to this point, and it's going to be impossible for me to acknowledge everybody today. I know that because I've tried to write down the list, and it's just impossible to build a complete list. The number of names on that list is really humbling when you stop and think about it. But there's a small handful of people and organizations who were instrumental in getting us to this point today, and we want to take a little bit of time and recognize them. And first of all, it all begins with the foresight of the mayor and the city council. In July of 2009, we asked them to endorse a plan that would have us constructing a new facility at a new site, and they did endorse that recommendation with a unanimous vote. And since that time, we've had unqualified, unwavering support for them for the project. And thanks to their long view perspective, I'm the envy of my peers around the state when I tell them that the rate increases needed to pay for this project were completed a year before the project even went to bids. I also have to share the thanks and appreciation of my entire team for the guidance and support we've received from Steve Shanker and the staff in his office. They were involved in countless ways with this project, from helping shape the initial scope in the capital improvements plan, to assisting in acquiring the site, to critiquing numerous value engineering proposals. I know I speak for my entire team when I say that we've been blessed to have had the opportunity to work with our consulting partners over the last 6 years. And I'd like to extend our appreciation to Dale Watson and Lance Aldrich from Fox Engineering, Eric Bergeron and Teresa Conda from HDR Engineers, Paul Kading from Bar Engineering. Also like to recognize Cargus Falconbridge, who is our commissioning agent for the LEED certification on the facility. Could I ask that everyone here who works for one of those firms to just raise your hand for us? Dale commented to me that at one point in time on this project that there had been over 100 individuals working behind the scenes on the project. And I firmly believe that when we stand back on this site in 3 years and we cut the ribbon on it, the quality of their efforts will be plainly evident. Now, I think you'll all agree with me, though, that the excellence in design is really meaningless without the support of the folks who are going to operate and maintain that facility once it comes online. That requires the intimate engagement of those folks. And I would like to ask Lyle Hammes to come up and share a few comments on behalf of the city team.
Thanks. Early on, John established a clear vision of involving city employees to a much greater extent than would be considered typical for project design. And from the first conceptual meeting all the way through the end of design, he has followed through with that vision. This involvement has not been just trivial design details, but every major evaluation and key decision that have been made. One of the first things we did was visit other water plants, new and old, to see their designs. Every time we made sure our operators and maintenance workers were present. We saw things that we wanted to emulate, and we saw things that we wanted to avoid at all costs. We then used our own observations in creating our own design. Throughout design, our operators, maintenance workers, and staff engineers all brought their own experiences to the table. With different perspectives came new ideas and ways to improve the already strong and innovative design provided by our outstanding consulting team. The benefits of our staff involvement will pay off in both the near and the long term. In the near term, cost savings ideas have already been realized. During plant startup, there will be a shorter learning curve because of our involvement. Despite the fact we haven't used some of these technologies, we have a head start on what it will be like to operate and maintain them. Ultimately, there will be ongoing benefits in the day-to-day operation and maintenance of the facility due to suggestions and ideas of city staff. For example, one of our operators proposed a different way to connect piping from the new plant to the existing plant. This removed what we call a single point of failure and will increase the reliability of our pumping operation. Our maintenance staff came up with a revised way to handle water plant residuals, and our engineering staff evaluated the use of a simpler type of aerator that saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. Last but not least is the sense of accomplishment for everyone when this project is finished. I hope everyone has at least one, hey, I helped with that moment as we walk through this facility in 2017. For me personally, this has been an exciting challenge. 3 years ago, I transitioned to water plant superintendent. What a great opportunity this has been to take on new challenges, yet not leave my engineering background far behind. I want to personally thank the consulting team for working with all of our staff during this design. It meant a lot to us. So far in referencing city staff, I primarily meant people in our own department. However, I'd be remiss to not mention other city departments who have played a role as well. Public Works lent their expertise at certain stages. Our inspections division played a key role, as did planning and housing, our legal department, and purchasing division of finance. On bid day, purchasing even had the consideration of reading the lowest bid first. That was appreciated. This truly has been an all-hands-on-deck endeavor, one which exemplifies core city values such as creativity and innovation, teamwork, employee involvement, fiscal stewardship, and customer-driven. I assure you, we have indeed had the end users in mind, the citizens of Ames, as we've moved through the project. I'm confident that the end result will be a more reliable, cost-effective water treatment facility that will serve Ames for decades to come. Participation in the design of this facility is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. We thank John for the opportunity which we have been afforded, and I invite him now to return to continue recognizing some key individuals.
Thanks, Lyle. I'd like to ask that every city employee who's been involved in any way whatsoever in this project, if you could just raise your hand for a moment. There's a lot of folks here who play the role. Thank you all. And I do want to give some special recognition to my cohorts on the much smaller steering team who have helped bring this project forward. Lyle, the water plant superintendent, Chris Evans, environmental engineer, and Christina Murphy, our assistant director. They've all helped carry a tremendous load over the past several years, and I'd like to express my sincere, heartfelt appreciation for the early mornings, late nights, and sacrificed weekends that went into getting us to this point. Another crucial partner in our journey to reach this point is the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. Their involvement has spanned everything from technical issues to helping to coordinate the funding on the project. They deserve a special thanks for the support they've provided for the funding on the project and through the state revolving loan fund. I'd like to invite Bill Aim, administrator for the Iowa Department of Natural Resources Environmental Services Division, to share a few thoughts.
Well, good afternoon. Mayor Campbell and City Manager Shanker, Director Dunn, water system staff and city employees involved with this, and most of all the residents of Ames. I'm pleased to be here representing Director Chuck Gipp this afternoon, who wasn't able to come to Ames today. But also the other staff of the Iowa Department of Natural Resources as well. Without a doubt, this has been a long process, and we're anxious to help celebrate this milestone in your development of this new facility. For those of you in the audience that don't quite understand what the Department of Natural Resources might have to do with this, we've got several roles that we play in the development of new water systems. First of all is the permission to actually withdraw large quantities of water from below ground aquifers or any type of water resource for that matter. And then also we review all the construction plans and make sure that they meet all the state and federal requirements that come along. And then finally, along with the Iowa Finance Authority, as John indicated, we work together with the state revolving fund that is playing a major role in the financing of this particular project. The DNR really wants to congratulate the city on looking forward in this project. It's a very forward-thinking effort to be building such an expansive project here, but the new plant will provide capacity, reliability, and the security that most of the people of the state of Iowa and certainly the residents of Ames have grown to expect and to demand. And there's more to look forward to, though. One of the things that we've done working with the community is looking at environmental sustainability. And the city will seek LEED certification, LEED standing for the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, in recognition of the measures to use resources wisely and responsibly to preserve the environment for future generations. The SRF financing will include a 20% building cost as loan forgiveness. We celebrate the city's initiative in this plan and planning for the future, and pleased to be able to provide this incentive to make sure that this plant is more friendly to the environment. Mayor Campbell, I don't really have any kind of one of those big lottery, checks or anything to pass on to you today, but we are excited to work with you, and both in the construction as well as the financing of this project. And we look forward to the day when we won't just be breaking ground, but we'll actually be cutting a ribbon and celebrating the establishment of the new plant. Good luck, and we thank you for inviting us to be a part of this today.
Thank you, Bill. I would like to just reiterate the value of that Green Project Reserve loan forgiveness that we're getting. That's going to translate roughly into about a $6 million forgivable loan for the utility. And that's not only going to help lower the capital cost of the facility, but it's going to lower the operating cost, and it's also going to lower the carbon footprint of the facility. So it's really an outstanding program that the DNR makes available to us. So thank you, Bill, for being here, and please take our thanks back to the other members of your team as well. Now, I mentioned earlier that back in July of 2009, the City Council endorsed a plan to construct a new facility at a new location, and the key phrase there was new location. That was really one of the very first things we had to set about doing. And selecting the site was the easy part. Actually securing it, though, turned out to be no small task. It took more than 2 years of tireless efforts by many folks, including Senators Grassley and Harkin and staff from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And I'd like to invite Dr. Marcus Kehrli from the National Animal Disease Center to share some thoughts about the significance of the site.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share in your groundbreaking ceremony here today for your new water treatment facility. I was asked to provide a bit of historical significance about this site to the city, the state of Iowa, and to our country. I promised John I would not make you go through the Virology 101 lecture, but if you're interested, we can put you to work. We do need to begin, though, with what the significance of this location means to Ames, Iowa, and our country. In 1905, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which was fairly young then, relocated an experiment station that they had in Sidney, Iowa, to this very location. And the purpose was to study and evaluate some new theories around hog cholera. Only a year before they purchased and moved to this location had they actually demonstrated that hog cholera was caused by a virus. And that was done by scientists in Washington, D.C. Yes, Washington, D.C. actually did animal research in areas today that you would visit as a tourist. They were more than happy to move us out of there. But the breakthrough to proving that it was caused by a virus, it was only the second virus to affect animals known to mankind when they did that work. And it was off of some newfangled device that the Pasteur Institute in Paris had invented. And it was called a porcelain filter. And viruses are very tiny, as you all know, and they pass through filters. And so that differentiates them from a bacteria, because for years, decades, they thought it was caused by a bacteria, this hog cholera disease. Why was that important? Well, hog cholera was a devastating disease to hog producers around this country and elsewhere in the world. Today it is known as classical swine fever. Those of you who are my age or older, you know of it as hog cholera. The geographical origins are still of debate, but it was first observed in 1833 in the state of Ohio. We'll never know what actual geographic location it originated in. Losses to the swine industry grew and became absolutely enormous. In 1875, a USDA statistician estimated it was costing this nation $100 million a year in losses in pork production. That's huge even by today's standards. However, in 2004, there was an economic analysis of swine diseases, and by adjusting the dollars for inflation, in 2004, it would have been costing this country about $365 million a year in lost exports. The pork industry in the United States exports over 25% of the pork that they produce. That is a huge boon to the U.S. economy, and is in no small part due to research done in part on this location and just up the street. The seminal research that was done on this land actually helped verify the hypothesis and testing that was done originally in Washington, D.C. And they worked to develop new methods to vaccinate and immunize our swine herd for the entire country. However, in 1963, after we had moved into our new facility, a team of veterinary medical researchers led by Dr. Bill Mengling, Gene Pertl, and J.P. Torrey were the first to develop a rapid, accurate diagnostic test for hog cholera that could be performed in less than 1 day. And that test, ladies and gentlemen, enabled this country to eradicate that virus from its swine herd by 1978. Today, Dr. Bill Mengling remains here in Ames. He's now retired, and Ames is his home. And he does not hesitate to pick up the phone and call me or drive out and visit to share his ideas on solving other diseases of today. And I listen to him every time he calls. On January 31st in 1978, the Secretary of Agriculture declared the United States hog cholera free in ceremonies in Washington, D.C. It has opened export markets for this country that we did not have prior to that time. To quote Dr. Mengling, Hog cholera was the most devastating disease of the swine industry for over a century in this country. Containment and eventual eradication required research-based information on the cause and transmission of the disease, as well as methods for diagnosis and prevention. The total eradication was achieved through close cooperation of scientists, both federal and state regulatory agencies, producers, and the affected industrial groups. When the USDA began looking at alternative uses for this property in the early 1990s, after a series of assessments, both historical assessments as well as environmental assessments of this location, we were finally able to find an interested and willing collaborating partner in the city of Ames. In 2009, as John mentioned, those negotiations began. We knew it would literally take an act of Congress if we were to sell the property, and there were some loopholes in the law, as only lawyers can find. And one of the loopholes was we could make a land swap. And the cooperation with the city to help us pull off this land swap and to achieve the trade of this land for some other land that we could use to help manage our soil nutrient management plan for the Iowa DNR has been most beneficial for us, and I hope it's as beneficial for the city of Ames with this new facility being constructed here. I also wonder if we could work out a cheap water delivery rate. We're not your biggest customer, John, but we're one of them. Okay, yeah, I wasn't involved, but I'm pretty good at arm wrestling. So I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and enjoy this day with you. Mayor, you ordered up a Chamber of Commerce day, perfect weather, and appreciate the opportunity, and good luck with your new facilities.
Thank you. I also see that Diana Whipple snuck in. She was key in helping us make the land transfer, as well as Carol Moran, so thank you for the efforts there. Tireless efforts to make that happen. And I will say that Dr. Mengling has called me a few times to talk about the significance of the site, and we've agreed with him that as we finish the site that we would like to erect some sort of a monument or a marker on the site to commemorate the significance of what has taken place here. Last Tuesday evening, the City Council took an action that expanded our partnership on the project to now include our general contractor, Knutson Construction Services. And I know that there were a few folks from Knutson who did make the trip to join us today. Could raise your hands. Here they are back there. Welcome aboard onto the team. We look forward to a long and prosperous relationship. And now I would like to ask that the mayor and the members of the City Council join us right over here, and we will have the groundbreaking ceremony.